tap on me like a wrist lock. Anything you do, you better do it twice. This is new to me. You know that I'll be giving you what you want. But if you...
Welcome to episode 6 of Your Girl's Crusty Foot. Myself, Yuri.
Yo, Mr. T in the building.
And our special guest for today,
Martin. How's it going, guys?
It's going good. It's going good.
All right, so this is another one of Yuri's fans as a guest. Primarily, what I know of Martin is he's been called the Black Russian in our
By yourself.
Well, no. I'm not turning yours down as Black Russian because that was how you're being sold. So tell me something about yourself, Martin.
I'm not a Black Russian.
Right? Got that from the accent straight off the jump.
Born in London. Yeah, I guess I get around a lot in terms of traveling and shit. Also working, that's why I was in Russia in the first place.
What do you do?
At the moment, I'm doing cybersecurity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cybersecurity. Interesting. That does sound interesting.
Yeah.
So your company sent you to Russia. So the company you're working with does cybersecurity, and they were working with a Russian company, or how did it?
Yeah. Essentially, so I had to go there and do some work with like different individual businesses and obviously demonstrating like what we do and how we can help them, etc. So
Okay,
yeah.
so basically you secure their business space so they can't get hacked and such forth, right?
Yeah, we help with that. Yeah.
And that must be a big deal in Russia.
You can say that.
Okay. All right.
Elaborate.
Well, I mean, we all know about like cyber attacks and with Russia being a big part of that. So, I mean, it's something that usually they typically do instead of them needing protection from. But of course, they need protection too. So.
So anything you done that might play a part in what's going on right now in terms of setting up the national security?
You somehow put in some. You somehow. Okay, yeah, me and Putin, same guy. Yeah, okay.
Now, so obviously spending time in Russia, man, that's what we're really curious about, is being a black man in Russia. Shit, like what was it like?
Yeah, it was crazy. It got to the point where I was like, I couldn't be bothered to leave my house sometimes, like my apartment, because it was like the looks were that intense.
Oh, for real?
Oh wow.
It was. Is that sarcasm?
Oh no! I swear that. I'm the opposite. I know a lot of black people are like, oh, Russia, they must be racist. I've always had the opposite feeling of like I don't know anyone from Russia. I've got nothing to base that on apart from what I've been told in the West about all Russians are crazy, vodka drinking, alcoholic, racist. Like so.
Well, I mean, of course, when you go to certain places, I'm sure.
What part were you at?
Moscow and St. Petersburg.
And St. Petersburg. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What's like the racial demographic there? Is that like because you got like different ethnic Russians and like.
Well, I mean, Russia's kind of somewhat mixed up because on one side on the east side they have like the border next to China essentially. Right. So it's like you can literally have people that look almost Chinese but essentially are Russian.
Right. Okay.
In that sense. But in terms of like actual immigrants that come over, it's usually like maybe people from Kazakhstan and sometimes people from Turkey and some places like that. Okay. So in terms of black people being there, as an example, if I was like out for 6-7 hours on the main streets of Moscow, St. Petersburg, for 7 hours walking, looking around, I'd see a black person maybe once.
Oh, for real?
Yeah. And that's like maybe.
But at least you would see one.
Yeah, like probably like cleaning up the bins or something. Like, you might see one. Yeah.
Not even like a little Nigerian community over there. Some phone shops.
Going to university.
I actually went to an Afrobeats party there.
I'll get them. How does that work? An Afrobeats party in Russia?
Yeah, let me tell you. So I have obviously I go abroad a lot in it. So I have to like kind of do certain things. I'm like, okay, how can I find someone who can do my hair? So when I've been to places like Poland and shit like that, like I had to like go on Instagram, search certain things, and then I get used to it, right? So I also did that when it comes to going to parties, right? So I'm like, okay, what can I go to? And then like there was someone I was talking to, and like they just hooked me up with this vibe, and it was like, yeah, you can go to this place. But I went, it was like someone's fucking house. It was a mess. Yeah, it was a mess. But it was like I felt like it was like 90% black people.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, this is actually like where every single black person in Moscow has gone. Yeah, it was mad. It was mad.
Well, like English speaking black people or like.
Nah.
Okay.
Some of them. But yeah, mainly like just, you know, Russian speaking or they're native.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I know there's like a hip hop scene in Russia. So I'm guessing it can't just be, oh, like, we hate you blacks. It can't just be.
Nah, I mean, so the majority of the people, so it's like the people that support Vladimir. The majority of them are the Yoda people. Okay. It's similar to the UK in it. It's like, you know, conservative, they support Boris. You know, it's usually going to be the Yoda generation and Labour the other. So, yeah, it's kind of mad because you will speak to people who are pro-Vladimir and, like, who are like, clearly, openly racist. But they will be the people that are, like, 40, 50, 60 plus. Typically.
So is that kind of like the setup then? So pro-Vladimir are generally the racist, old school, or like a Euro-friendly, or like a new, younger.
Yeah.
Is there anyone there that they can, that's in opposition to Vladimir, for example?
Well, the last person was that guy that got poisoned.
Right.
Navalny. So he literally, well, we all know that he poisoned him. And now he's in jail, and they haven't given him reasons for that. So I mean, yeah, it's interesting from that perspective, but you've also got to look at it from I don't want to say understanding because I never understand racist, but essentially they've had a controlled TV. I mean, the news is still controlled, as we know, and the people that are 60, 70, you know, they imagine just growing up with TV. It's not like they had internet. You know, they just grow up with this TV. They watch the news. They've been watching the news for 50 years saying, you know, like, you know, Stalin is the right person and all these Russian people were, you know, the correct people. Yeah. So now they've seen Putin in charge for what, like 20 years probably, right? Or, well, there was a period when he put someone else in charge for like 8 years, but it was still essentially him. But they've seen, you know, pro plus Putin news for 20 years. How are you going to tell? Like, you know, imagine telling your grandparents, hey, the news you've been watching for 50 years is fake. And you need to change your mentality. Yeah. It's not going to work. And also they don't want to accept that they're wrong, you know, because then they've been an idiot for 50 years and lied to for 50 years.
That's interesting. So it's definitely like, because obviously over here, we just get fed Putin is like Thanos. Putin is like anti-life, anti-the world. Every kind of evil is just in this man. Yeah. So when I kind of looked at it like on a political level, I've always kind of seen Russia being, whenever they kind of like I've spit it on the show before, when there's been kind of black movements, it's always kind of been on Russia to help fund them, or like say countries in Africa who wanted some kind of help outside of like the IMF control, have always kind of sought Russian help. So I always thought there might have been a better relationship than we are showed.
Well, I think that, you know, in terms of those countries, that there's more benefit there, you know. So essentially, from some countries, it's like, okay, what countries will help us? Because a lot of the countries that have essentially colonized us in the past aren't really helping us that much. Yeah. So, you know, whether that's, you know, obviously China exploiting us, exploiting Africa to a certain extent, but, you know, it's just seeking help from people who will help. Yeah. And luckily, you know, I suppose those countries that have been outcast are sometimes the countries that will offer help because they're looking for more allies, essentially. Yeah. Okay. But I want to pick you on something. Because when I watched what you were saying, you said that I think the example you gave was like, you know, there's footballers playing in Russia. Right. And you said something along the lines of, it's unfair that they're being targeted. So, for example, you know, because of what Putin's done, he's shut down the whole country. Right.
So what I said was, in terms of the footballers, what I said was they're being targeted to kind of come out and say something when I personally don't really see the point in that. I don't see how a footballer coming out in condemnation, it's like it's all on him to do that. And then yeah, so what's the other point? Footballer.
Yeah, you mentioned that it's unfair that it's efficient.
Right, yeah. So yeah, when I look at like average civilians, like so you got a Russian passport in some countries. Yeah. You just woke up and your shit's froze. Like you got no access to your bank, you got no access to your credit cards. Like you can't. You're just stuck. So yeah, because you don't know all these people support Putin. So it kind of feels strange to me that you're gonna sanction. The sanctions kind of affect everyday people who might not be in support of the regime.
Yeah, and I agree with that from a certain aspect. I mean, because obviously the Ukraine situation is the worst situation, right? And unluckily, it's like the sanctions are essentially kind of the only thing they can do other than going to war.
Yeah.
So it's like, trying to cripple their economy, which is having some effect, and obviously is with the whole situation happening, I think that is part of in Putin's head essentially. And of course, the fact that some countries are looking to move, from them being the main gas supplier and oil supplier for some of them, it is crippling in some way. It's I've literally got people I still speak to in Russia, and like it's unfortunate for them.
So do you have friends in Russia?
Yeah.
Oh, so there was a few good Russians out there.
No, for sure. I mean, the fact I think it's ridiculous to generalize that any.
Yeah, you can't generalize any country.
That's just and when I was out there, I was just talking to people because for me it was interesting just to understand people's opinions, right? And the way that they feel, and some people, it's true and not true. Essentially, is that they feel that Russia is picked on, right? So their news essentially, because it is pro-Putin and controlled, is Russia is picked on. Why we're just the good guys. We're trying to help Ukraine. At the moment they can't declare it a war. They have to support a special operation. All these things, and part of their agenda is, there's Nazis in Ukraine and we're helping them because obviously they did that in World War II, and that's going to rally up the old people, even though it's all BS obviously. But
I would say so there is the Azov who were put into made a battalion officially by the Ukrainian president. So for the Nazi thing, there is some, obviously it's probably been demonstrated blown up out of proportion, but there definitely is some reality to it.
Yeah, and I mean I agree with that, but at the same time, if there's a small story, it's like the Black Lives Matter protest, right? All it takes is someone to fucking hit a car window, and it's this whole protest, they're all it's just so easy.
Yeah, so I think this is the problem I have with in terms of a lot of the rhetoric they use of Russia. As true as it may be, when you're doing the same thing, just in a more subtle way, it kind of just feels very hypocritical. So that's my issue with it. I've never been like, oh yeah, Russia right to do that, but I'm just like, you lot are laying on the sauce a bit thick here, considering what you lot do.
Yeah, and I mean, so there's several elements to that, right? Because, for example, in 2008 when they invaded Georgia, right? And then also 2014 when they took over a naval base in, I can't remember, but it was a naval base in Crimea, for example. So they took that in Ukraine too. So for them, it's kind of like, okay, you're looking to join NATO. Okay, we can't have someone who's so close to Russia who can start a war. So from that perspective, it's considered protection. But at the same time, if Russia wasn't such a shit country in terms of the way that it is essentially ran like a dictatorship, they wouldn't need to worry about anything in the first place.
I have a question for you. So, knowing that obviously NATO, everyone knew, but continuing to infringe further into Russian, what they consider their borders, was always going to lead to this. I don't think anyone had any doubt that it was going to lead to an invasion of Ukraine. So is it possible if they knew this is going to happen, this might have been part of a kind of a bigger thought pattern? Because I always kind of think if I can see things from this position, you're not in other positions without being clever. You're not stupid. So if you got all of your ministers telling you, you continue to infringe, there's going to be an invasion, maybe it was kind of something they wanted to happen.
I mean, I respect, I doubt that. I mean, the only reason I say that is because it's it was kind of always on an eggshell, right? So it's okay, do I join NATO and definitely have protection from Russia? Because they're still, there's still a threat from Russia. They are still on the border. So it's but then it's okay, you're risking an attack like what happened in Georgia in 2008. But then it's kind of a bit which one do I go on? So either way, you have a problem.
Yeah, it was gonna be
Yeah, so it's it's tough, but I doubt it was a bigger plan because no country wants to see their country at war essentially. But
but it wouldn't be.
But it wouldn't be them.
Exactly.
In what sense, sorry?
So if NATO are pushing, it's not going to be NATO.
It's not Ukraine.
NATO recently, you're by yourselves. We'll send you a couple of 2-3 tanks, the ones you don't really need, but essentially, you're by yourself.
Yeah, I mean, it would have
But
been.
essentially, they're antagonizing Russia.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, it's kind of like antagonizing a bully. I mean, look. The thing is, people in Russia also.
Yeah. I feel like,
Go
we
ahead,
are the
go ahead,
biggest
go
bullies here. In the words of Cat Williams, and I think it stands for like the whole of the West, like, well, essentially England and America, we are the biggest bullies in the world. Like, Russia is like, so we're the big fat kid on the playground. Russia is like the skinny kid just trying to hold his own in there, but he's putting a bit of weight about.
So we're
But
going to
he's
send
not.
this little one to just poke him a little bit.
Well,
See what they can do.
Once they got Putin out, they can go and get a pro-Europe president in there, and then it's like,
Hey.
we have everything.
so there's valid points for that. So of course, like America wants world dominance, and America is American does things in silence, and they are as bad as Russia. It is very similar.
Yeah, of course.
The only difference is Russia does it loud in your face. But the difference is with some things. So just from the standpoint of Putin being like, I'm not leaving, and I'm your dictator, and you cannot say nothing bad about me, and the news is controlled, and you can't leave the country, and we've banned LinkedIn because we don't want people like having jobs, and they're like
They banned LinkedIn.
yeah, they banned LinkedIn because people are leaving the country. They're
So Russia, you can't get LinkedIn, but you can get other
Only-
social media.
You can make money on OnlyFans.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, my friend told me that they've banned a few things there now,
Now.
because of
Yeah,
of course,
West.
because of the news. But yeah, US is always a superpower, and they will want to be number one. And if there's a new threat, then it's like similar with Japan, they will want to target that country. But at the same time, Russia is bad. So it's kind of like, okay, we want control and we want to be more powerful. And that's definitely a factor, but it is a bad country. Like, the people there know it.
Yeah.
Like, the fact that, I was speaking to someone yesterday, and they were saying that they got arrested for protesting. Like, that's a reality that we don't have to face. Like the fact that, this is that podcast, for example, if you're talking about Boris, you don't need to worry about getting thrown in jail or a cop waiting outside for you.
Yeah.
That's their reality.
No, they said Channel 4. Channel 4 was probably shit about Boris. They said, all right, we'll sell it.
Let's move on.
Yeah, I hear that. What's actually happening with that?
Yeah, it was
So,
part of the discussion for today.
From what I understand, are we officially
officially
jumping on
jumping on?
subjects? Yeah. I do want to.
We go back.
Yeah, cool. I want to come back to Black Russia, but
It's being sold for a
Black
billion.
Russia.
Apparently.
Black Russia. Black Russia's a house. Okay.
What's the
yeah.
name
So
of the cultural minister?
Nadine Dorries.
That's it. Right. Yes.
So yeah, they're selling the Channel 4. I think the controversy is that Channel 4 is kind of pays for itself as it is. It's not like it's a burden on taxpayer pockets or government pockets. But
BBC is more of a burden.
Exactly. But Channel 4 has always been a little bit,
It's ethnic.
Yeah,
It's
a little bit ethnic.
It
It's
shows
always
our
been.
voices. It shows ethnic voices. It's a place for our voices. Top Boy. They name the shows that have started on Channel 4.
Exactly.
Name the black actors that have become famous from Channel 4.
So, that is kind of one of the main aspects of it, because obviously Channel 4 is one of the only major platforms, broadcasters here who will give chances to smaller production companies.
Funnily enough, it was created by the Tory government in 1982.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, to give voice to the less advantaged.
Interesting.
And now the Tory government decides to sell it.
Yeah, and like I say, Channel 4 has always kind of been like, they play by their own rules in a sense. So, I don't know if you remember, like during the election when Boris was refusing to go to a lot of the debates.
Oh yeah.
So Channel 4 had like that kind of mockery, fake Boris standing. You don't remember that?
No, I don't remember.
So all of these things there is like what people are saying, whoa, like they kept kicking. Yeah, like you was saying, man. Like Channel 4 for me, it's always been like our channel from like early. Like listen, Happy Days. My whole childhood was based on
Happy Days, Blossom.
Happy Days, Saved by the Bell.
Literally.
You know what I'm saying?
Everything, man.
Desmond's.
I used to come
For
home
Word.
6 o'clock. From 6 o'clock, Channel 4's on.
Sorry, how old are you?
31.
Okay, so some of these shows might be right over your head.
Nah, I know most of them. Yeah,
Okay.
Moesha.
Mo, was that Channel 4?
Yeah, I'm sure it wasn't it.
I thought that's Nick. No,
was
one
it
of them. Yeah, that's a
Nickelodeon?
Sky thing.
Oh no.
I don't know. It might be Channel 4 T4 or one of them.
I don't know.
One of the things I don't know.
But anyway,
Yeah, it's always felt like kind of like voice. Any of the shows I kind of grew up watching was all Channel 4, maybe 1 or 2 BBC 2, but mainly always gonna be Channel 4. So yeah, it does feel
their
like
main thing about it is that they're saying that with government money, Channel 4 can't open its space to compete with Netflix and the streaming services, right? Because they can't do big budget shows and they can't do things like that. And with outside money, it will allow Channel 4 to be able to grow. But why don't they just give it the money?
yeah, maybe. All right, so even if they don't give it the money, look, the most likely thing that's gonna happen if you sell it to a private company is it's gonna be Viacom, but buy it like same as Channel 5. So you can essentially have like another Channel 5 at London Live, like the same
And
channel.
they'll just archive all the old
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
and just start streaming that.
Yeah, so you kind of lose a lot from like an original production standpoint.
So yeah, but
But do we have any idea about who's buying it at the moment?
No,
Because that could totally swerve the whole like company in general. It could be like a super left thing or super right thing, or I don't know.
yeah, it could be.
Like minorities could lose their space completely.
Yeah, I mean,
Possibly.
it's usually just a handful of companies kind of in for like these kind of things anyway. So, yeah, I would. My money's on, like I say, the same people that bought Channel 5.
I think personally, minorities have lost their space. From the time that they said in it, minorities have lost their space.
Yeah.
It's regardless of who buys it, it's not. They're not going to. Okay, so apart from, we do know that Black Pound is like the strongest. Well, they say it's the strongest pound in terms of music and things like that. But in terms of cultural voices and things that aren't as popular, just natural cultural voices and things that Channel 4 do, a big money company that's buying Channel 4 for $1 billion isn't going to represent that.
No, they got no. I mean, unless the government really enforced the remit of like, this is what you have to do, this is what your agenda must be. But I was watching I don't know who this guy was yesterday on TV, but one of these bloated Tory MPs, and you could tell by his tone they got no intention of doing that.
It's a money grab.
No, yeah, it's a money grab.
Money grab.
This government is the most corrupt, money grabbing government I've seen. Like the most brazen
They're trying
government
to
I've
pay
seen
their
in this
fines.
country in my lifetime.
They're trying to pay their fines.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, for real. Again, like, look how that just happened. It got brushed under the carpet. Like, it's all just, oh yeah, give Boris another chance. It's all, we got better things to think about now.
So did Boris actually get fined?
I think so.
Don't know if
No,
they
I'm
announced
not-
that.
I'm not
so
sure.
under the rug, innit? Like
Yeah.
it's nuts. Because it came out that apparently he had like between 12 to 15 parties. Like how comfortable? How comfortable?
He
Holy
attended. He
shit.
attended. He attended.
Yeah,
to it.
shit.
attended. How comfortable are you that you are gonna win your next vote? That
You're
you can
locking
have that
locking
many...
down the country, but yeah, you're
Oh
attending
my
parties like it's
God.
nothing.
You know when lockdown was happening, and it was like there was certain like the most ratchet chickenadiest chick might be at like maybe 4 or 5 parties. You might see on your Snapchat like, right, yeah, they're out there doing 2 or 3, 15 parties.
Yeah,
15. That is
disrespectful. Like, it's so.
wow. At this big man age, COVID or no COVID, I don't go to that many parties. I don't. Like, that's mad. That's not
And
necessary.
this is over a span of like 2 weeks.
Oh
Nah,
shit! No, that sounds like cocaine activity to me. That sounds like cocaine,
That's a
dog.
fact.
Oh shit, that's mad.
So do we want to finish this Russian conversation before we move on to our other topics? Go on. One
Alright, so-
question is, Howie, Roman being
Oh
poisoned
yeah,
in
Roman
Russia.
got poisoned over there.
Roman,
Yeah, Abramovich.
Roman Abramovich.
The Chelsea.
he got poisoned.
Yeah.
When?
So what is it? Last week he went there to kind of negotiate terms of a safe passage.
You're just laughing.
I think he was there for a day, and his skin started peeling, and he became blind. And yeah, it turned out it was like one of these poisons. It's been several guesses to which poison was used, but yeah.
Like, I mean, think about
no.
it. This is one of the few Russians that is well known in the UK,
Yeah.
and he goes back and he gets poisoned. I mean, like, what else do you need?
But then,
like,
who,
what do you
then wait.
need? Like-
Conspiracy time. Who poisoned him? Russia always almost seems too obvious. Like he went to Russia, they poisoned him. That's like,
It's true.
yeah,
It's
like
true. Could be that big bully.
I
again.
can't see.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the thing, though. Yeah. Okay. So sometimes, like, if something keeps happening, like, you can't just be like, oh, it's all a conspiracy. Like, come on, man. Like, come on. And the thing is, sometimes, like, because I have people who literally
But we
can
can say that either
translate shit with me,
We can say that either side. We can say like it's happened so many times with like this side and so many times with that side as well. It's like who do you? It's not like.
But the thing is, luckily, when I was in Russia, I actually, from me picking, like, I would ask like 10, 15 people, like, what do you think about Putin? And they would give me knowledge that only Russians understand, right? And it kind of got to the point where I was like, oh, wow, this is like so much deeper than I thought.
Right.
Like, when I'm saying.
What kind of knowledge?
Like,
Expand.
So, just in terms of like, everyone knowing that he put basically a puppet in. So he had his first two terms. His first two terms were considered successful because, at that time people were, buying gas, buying oil. So, Russia's economy naturally went up. So some people were like, oh, it was Putin. And some people were like, oh, it would have happened anyway. But it's just that Putin was there.
Also, did he... I watched this on a TV show, so I'm not sure how accurate it was.
Yeah.
Was when obviously the break of the USSR happened, a lot of gangsters took over a lot of the stuff that were that national stuff, and they then became really rich. And then when Putin came in power, he then cleaned it up. So his first term, for example, now, I don't know how.
Where did you hear this? I'm curious.
It was it's a Russian TV show I was watching.
I mean, all right, that's how the oligarchs are created. But who housed many oligarchs when they got their money? Who was the one craving for Russian money in the 80s? So it's like, like Putin might have, but Margaret Thatcher welcomed them all in.
True.
How do you own half of London?
Yeah, I mean, so the thing with that situation is, so Moscow has the most millionaires in any city, which is like really interesting for me because
In
it
any
shows
city
you,
in Russia or any city in the world?
In the world.
Wow.
So the reason why that's so interesting.
Any city in Russia.
Bro.
Yeah, Chernobyl's competing.
Russia has the most millionaires. Moscow has the
Any
most
city in the
millionaires
world.
than any. Okay.
That's including Monte Carlo, Monaco,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that's crazy.
That's crazy.
Which to me kind of shows you like capitalism in that sense. It's like people are getting super rich, but then it's super poor. That's how it always works in any country, right? So when you leave Moscow and St. Petersburg, especially Moscow,
How does it look?
it
just starts to go
it's
down.
poor. It's incredibly poor, and it's like embarrassingly poor. So it just shows you that people up here are getting it, and then people down here are not getting it at all.
Yeah.
So like we were talking about house prices in London outside, for example. What's the house prices in Moscow like?
I don't know that. I don't know that, to be fair.
I'm curious of what they're worth now. Shit.
I mean, so the thing is, there's some companies that, so I'm obviously, as you know, I'm doing stocks. So there's some companies that are inevitably going to go up because they are based off of the Russian people, right? So it's like there's a company called Yandex, and they're essentially like their Google Maps, their Uber, and they're like a search engine.
All in one.
Kind of, yeah.
They're Google, Uber.
Yeah.
And
So, it's like a powerhouse. So it's inevitably going to climb up, and there's some Russian companies that will inevitably do good because it's Russian based.
Would you advise me to invest in Russian stocks right now?
Yandex.
Well, you can't.
Yeah,
But But in time, yes.
Okay.
So those Western companies like Google, Uber, etc., aren't allowed in Russia.
No, they are.
They are. Okay.
Yeah, they are.
Okay.
They are.
They're just not as big in the space
Yeah.
compared to
So
Russian
I'm
companies.
not sure about Uber. I'm not sure if I tried to use it. And with Google, that is allowed. They've blocked Google News right now because of, obviously. But yeah, there are companies that are allowed there for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's not like
China.
So it's not like North Korea where it's like everything's
my
bad.
conflict is with this, and even with North Korea as well. It's like, as terrible as the regime seem, I always get this thing of the same thing we're saying about America being like this global superpower, taking up everyone. Russia and North Korea kind of like the last frontiers against it. So as bad as they are, once this monopoly sucks everything, where is the resistance to like like any of this. There is there's no resistance, and it's not like this is a regime which has been favorable to my people,
Yeah.
particularly like all the world. I don't think they've cleansed the way, ripped off entire races. They've eradicated
Taking
whole
the resources. moved on.
As much as I agree with you, I mean, we don't need to look far to find that, obviously Ukraine is next to Russia. A lot of them kind of, have Russian connections. Obviously they're not treating black people the greatest, right? In terms of China, like what they're doing with Muslims and the Uyghur people, I think.
we got Muslims. Yeah,
it's like,
It's
they don't fuck with, like, most places don't fuck with us.
Yeah.
So it's just about, hopefully what treats us slightly better.
So you traveled a lot.
Mhm.
Like, God, make
Oh yeah, by the way, North Korea is a whole different.
yeah.
Like you can't have any sympathy like for them.
You know who it is? So,
What do you mean?
I'm gonna play devil's advocate on this one as well, right?
Go ahead,
And I was
but you're
saying-
gonna lose.
Listen, I accept I'll probably lose this one, right? But so when you kind of seen country after country fall down by the same means in terms of, okay, you lot are cool, then we're like, all right, we're just going to hit you with sanctions and take all your financial means away, take all your resources, and eventually your people are gonna be like, oh no, just conform with the West. When you see that same thing happen over and over again, you'll get to the point where you're like, all right, cool, no other voices. On account here, nothing from there, because all they can do is bring corruption to the land.
Yeah.
Are we gonna lose it? So I can't understand where the paranoia comes from. But yeah, North Korea obviously is a very extreme example of that.
Yeah, I mean, do you think there's not a possibility that countries could actually just get along and it's like a system similar to like the UK where people are allowed to vote and kind of like, and there's still a healthy competition in terms of economy, but because, Japan has a good economy and they get along with America. Obviously, I appreciate America's number one and they always want to be number one. They're not going to want to be number two. I get it, God bless America, America's the best, blah, blah, blah. I get it. But in terms of, do you not just think it's possible and like feasible for everyone just to be in
To
a
get
good...
along?
No, so I think that
It's not human nature.
not even that. But I think it's in terms of the get along. So long it is, it's like me coming to all your houses, yeah, taking all your shit, and then say, all right, listen, I'm gonna give you lot a chip. Everyone live in peace under my kind of rule. It's okay. Over you do that. If it takes place over a long enough time, people will become forgetful of the fact that I've robbed your house in the first place to give you the chip. But those people that remember, oh shit, you robbed this from me, and then I'm trying to give it to me, always gonna harbor that feeling. So
I get that example, but I think it's more essentially if you have a thriving country and an economy, it's not someone taking your house. It's like, look, this is my road and I have the biggest house, and you can fight to have a bigger house.
right. So if you take, for example, crypto, countries trying to use crypto, kind of like trying to accumulate their wealth under a different monetary system. You can see they do not like that. IMF and all the powers that be are doing everything they can to try and like legitimize crypto and bring it into like their little pool. So it's not like it's okay, everyone can do what they want to do and make their own money. It is very much like you play by house rules. And a lot of the things that we kind of don't think about are the things up for stake. And you don't really realize until a crisis happens and you realize, oh shit, we got no say. There's nothing to fight against this because there is no opposition. And I always think that's dangerous to have like no opposition. Just that principle.
I mean, I think that in an ideal world, every country would compete and it'd be like, cool, like we're cool with blah, blah, blah. The problem is a lot of countries like...
It can't because people aren't on the same level.
Yeah, it's true. But so in terms of North Korea, you asked about it. How much do you, like in general, do you know a lot about the North Korea regime?
No.
Okay.
I know Kim Jong-un is the greatest human being that ever lived.
Anyway, so we're
sung when he
gonna
was
keep on
born.
moving from that. We're gonna keep moving from that. So if you are in North Korea, you can never leave. You are never allowed to leave. You are never allowed to watch TV from outside the country. So someone went in jail recently for bringing back Parasite, the South Korean movie.
Yeah.
So I think that, yes, I think they got killed or jailed. And it's just like that. Essentially it's like they have their own social, they have their own everything. Like, the fact that a lot of them. There was a story recently. Someone watched Titanic, and that was the first time they understood the concept of love, because they've never seen
But
it
do
in
you
North
know that
Korea.
from inside knowledge, or do you know that from Western propaganda?
Well, Western news. I would say Western propaganda.
Same thing.
But
Same
some
thing.
some of it is actual facts that you can track back. As an example, I think it was Kim Jong Un, or either his the gentleman before him, gentleman.
His father.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's literally the regime.
Yeah.
So, when they were trying to make North Korea a good film place like South Korea, like
Oh yeah, I watched
Japan,
the documentary on that one. Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
when they stole a director.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They literally stole the director from Japan.
and his wife.
And his wife. No. I think they took one of them first and then made the other one come over.
Oh,
Yeah.
And then made the other one come
That's
over.
some gangster shit.
Yeah.
and then kept them in jail
no.
for I think like 8 years or something like that.
Oh,
And
wow.
then they had no choice to make films for
Yeah,
them.
and then they was like, oh wow, look, they've joined our party. and they
Oh,
are
shit.
happy to be there. Like, it's a,
It was a
wild.
choice.
It's wild.
Jail will make movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, like I said, I'm playing devil's advocate with North Korea.
Yeah,
I'm
no
by
shit.
no means trying to
No
defend
shit.
their shit, because. But again, I don't know the full ins and outs. We never really
never
know.
know.
We know enough. We know
who's the
enough
last
to know
person
that,
you
like,
met from North Korea?
no one ever.
Exactly.
They don't get out
That's
of the
the
country.
point,
we know
though.
this. I know, yeah.
I mean, the fact enough. I mean, we're talking about Western propaganda. The fact enough that someone can't leave the country,
yeah, it's
is
not-
that not enough for you to be like,
Oh,
that's
yeah,
a bad
yeah, yeah,
fucking
yeah.
country? Like, what the fuck?
Oh, yeah.
we
Like I said, I'm
well,
playing
maybe it's not
devil's
too
advocate.
bad.
I'm
It's like,
playing
what
devil's
we
advocate,
talking
but by no means trying to suggest that North Korea is like, that's the future. That's where we need to begin.
No.
These motherfuckers can't leave their fucking like, yo, that's nuts. That's nuts.
But in Russia they can leave now, or they can't leave.
What, leave to go to another country?
Yeah.
They could always leave.
Yeah,
Like I said,
yeah.
No,
technically.
I'm sure you said that
No,
somewhere.
no, he said link. They banned LinkedIn because they
No,
didn't
not
like
LinkedIn.
people leaving.
Oh, they didn't like them leaving. Okay.
Yes, yeah. So they was trying to, not trying to make them, make money somewhere else from another
Right.
country.
Okay.
Yeah.
But they can leave.
Yeah, they can leave. Yeah.
So what's this? Russia wants to charge rubles for oil.
Right. Yeah. So.
Yeah. So I mean, from my understanding, so I only looked into it a little bit, but I believe that they want obviously other countries to play in rubles, so it can boost their economy, so they can get more money from it, etc. So that's my understanding from it.
Yeah. On a base level, it sounds fair enough. Why would you continue to make dollars your base currency? If
It's not your currency of the world, yeah.
Yeah.
Because then they can do what they did recently. Rubles is worth nothing, isn't it? I heard that somewhere, that they made everywhere else in the world, apart from in Russia, they made rubles worthless, more or less.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that would happen now because Russia is, as an economy, is pretty worthless. I remember a few years ago they tried to, I think it was India, Brazil, and Russia were trying to, at that time, get different currency to underwrite currencies to the dollar.
Okay.
I'm not sure what happened with that, but
Is the dollar
something like
still
that.
underwritten by their gold?
I don't know if we still believe in Fort Knox has gold. I don't know. But yeah, I would assume so, yeah.
Okay. Cool. Right. So, one thing that has. Do you want to go on?
One to ask you. So you traveled a lot, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Where would you say is the least and most racist place for a black man to travel in the 2020s?
Oh.
Why don't you just give us a little run through of where you've been?
Okay, I think that Russia's definitely.
He's also lived in Berlin. for
Russia
3
was the
years.
most racist.
Yeah.
Alright, Tom, number one on the chart, Russia. Alright.
I would say anywhere else is like a bit underneath. So Istanbul wasn't the great. Like I'm sure in different parts of Turkey they're used to tourists, but in Istanbul they definitely weren't.
Okay.
Within 3 days, I got called Michael Jordan twice, LeBron.
Yeah.
Like I look nothing like these guys.
Yeah.
And one other guy, and on my last day in Istanbul, some guy said, "Hey, you a famous gangster?" And I was like,
What?
I literally just left. I was like, I can't do
Alright,
this.
so
But you said Italy was.
do we
wasn't
determine
that
this is racism? Just by the way, like What is the line of racism?
For sure. I mean, there's obviously the ignorance.
Alright, so
there's the ignorance. I
Yeah,
understand
exactly,
there's the ignorance, and I can understand the difference between ignorance and direct racism. Direct racism, I'll give you an example. In Russia, someone saw a picture of a black man and said, "Yuck, I can't look at that thing." That was clear racist, yeah?
But being called Michael Jordan isn't technically racist.
No, it's just stupid.
Yeah, it's just
Nah,
there's not many black people around here, and
so that's a reference.
that's my only reference of a black person.
Michael Jordan, yeah,
to be fair, I think it has light connotations of racism. I understand that there's people that don't mean it like that, but for example, if I see a woman who is let's say what we would consider curvy, right, extremely curvy, and then I compare her to another person like Precious, for example, we know exactly what I'm trying to say, and even though, for example, I could mean it in a light-hearted way, it's still somewhat like, it's still ignorance, for sure. I understand that some people mean it in a different way, and I've had people say ignorant comments, and I've realized that they are not the people who would typically make those comments. I get it. There was a black girl there, and she was telling me that she tried to bleach her skin because of how much racism she got in school. Like how bad it was in Russia.
Okay.
What do you think that's gonna do, bro? She was
young. But the fact that
you hear that, but in this country, you hear that in America,
you hear that in Jamaica,
yeah, I know, but it's just the fact that it was the one black person I knew that said that. It's. I can't imagine, like, I got racism every day in Russia. Like, every day. So, I can't imagine what it was like living there. And some of them were ignorant. Some of them was like, if I was walking with a white girl, even if it was someone who someone who was a colleague, it would be like, the looks would be like, mad, like violent. You know what I'm saying?
If I was
like,
walking with a white girl in Russia, I would be looking over my shoulder every second.
Yeah. And it was long. And then people would be like, "Hey man, what's up?" And "Hey nigga," like,
"Hey man, straight nigga, hey nigga."
When they saying it again, are they saying it means to be racist or because they hear it in hip hop and they feel
so this is the
"Hey,
thing.
my nigga."
I understand that there's people who are not English speakers. So there was one person who said to me, I was like, "Yo, don't say that." Like, and I cut him straight to that. And there's the amount of times I had to be in situations, like fights and shit because of like people's ignorance. And like the thing is, put it like this: we can go abroad to somewhere and be like, "Oh, you know what? They call me Michael Jordan," and they mean it in a lighthearted way. But when you've lived there and you've had that every day for a year, or you've been there a month, like I was in Russia, by the end of it, I was done. I didn't have time to educate people. I just wanted to scrap. Like I didn't have time for it. So,
but the thing is, you are in their country. It's a tough one.
Yeah, but we are in the world.
I know we're in the world, but it's like if you go to some villages in Africa, as a white person, you still be looked and be called Brad Pitt, or you know what I mean.
If you come to certain ends in London and you're the one white boy in a crew, they're calling you Tommy. Like they're gonna reference you. You're the Chinese boy, you're Bruce Lee. They're gonna reference you by what they kind of know sometimes. So
yeah, but there's a difference between kids in Africa or the Caribbean who are in low income families and they have very limited sources, right? And then they see like Brad Pitt and they're like, "Oh, Brad Pitt," compared to Russians who have the technology, have education, can educate themselves if they wanted to.
Again, so do you find the divide between like say your educated Russians in like the capital Moscow and like kind of like the smaller towns where they're like?
I didn't spend enough time in those places, so I don't really know. I'll kind of give you an example. So in Moscow, so there's a Latin club in Moscow where there's obviously Latin women go. The few Latin women in Moscow go. And this one Russian guy, and he was, this was all translated for me. He said, "Oh wow, like this is such a great club, but I hate Latin men." And it's like, "So why are you here?" "Oh, I love Latin women." It's like, do you understand the fucking irony of what you're saying?
I know plenty of dudes that hate white men. Oh, but they love a white woman. I know plenty of dudes. Yes, hell yeah.
Man, race is a funny conversation.
It's because I think it's such a stupid premise for this, like, it's an ignorant, it's obviously just gonna have like very stupid fucking conversations around and connotations to it. So,
Mm.
but it exists, and I just feel like maybe we've made put a lot of things under the term of racism, which don't belong under the blanket of racism.
Yeah.
There is.
Yeah, I mean,
Ignorance outside of racism.
Yeah,
that's one
and I understand that, right? And it's kind of fair where it's like, you know, there's some people that you can educate and there's some people that you just can't. And I think that it's, you know, I've had friends who've made mistakes or errors. I've educated them, or I said, look, this is how I feel about it, and I think you should correct yourself, and they've done that. But then there's the people who are more stubborn and more like, oh no, it's what I like, or you know, it's the same people that get blackface, but like, oh well, you know, I did it for jokes, not understanding the history because they don't care about it enough, right? Yeah. Because it doesn't affect them. It's the same way you see an Oxfam, you know, commercial, and you don't want to look at it because it's easier, you know, like it's like, you know, ignoring other people's struggles just because it's inconvenient to you. And you know, talking about the whole Russia-Ukraine situation, it really bugs me the way that, you know, they ain't paying us to bring in Afghan people. Like, they ain't paying us to bring in Palestine people.
No Syrians.
But at the same time, it's like, oh, like, what makes this different?
Yeah, of course. Right.
Yeah, it's just, no, there's no sugarcoating it. They're blonde, blue-eyed.
The media say it themselves.
Yeah. They look just like us. They're Christian families. Like, yeah. It's.
But that's the thing though, because we're working with a bunch of people who subconsciously have these views. Yeah. So they disassociate themselves from, you know, someone from Afghanistan because they look different, they're different religions. So it's like, oh, you know, they're over there, it's fine. But they see something which is closer to home, and it's not even closer to home, it's just because they look different, and then it's like, oh shit, no, this is crazy, this is really bad. So where the fuck is your humanity? So that's my kind of issue with it, because it's the ignorance falls in line with that, because that means that you just ignore everything else. If you're at the age of 35, where we have access to all of the social media and the internet and all the information we want to, and you still are not educated enough to not call me fucking Michael Jordan, like it's too far for me to try and educate you. You've probably made your place. You know, you're settled in where you are. I don't know.
So, for example, right, you could have like a white dude that's like always like, oh, black this, black that, but he doesn't see himself as better than you. He's just like, you're black, I'm white. And he's going to keep on making black-white references. Where there might be like this person who's like, they're never going to say anything. And they're always going to say everything they can not to appear racist. And they'll defend you. When he's saying, you know, you black fellas, they'll be like, oh, you can't say that. But they defend you because deep down, he believes he's better than you. He believes that like, oh, these black people being subjected and they're not quite as intelligent as us and we need to look out for them. I feel some people, there's like an underlying consciousness of like feeling like they are superior. And it doesn't always come out like in terms of, you black da-da-da. Very rarely, usually that's a feeling of inferiority. It usually comes out in, oh, bless them. Oh, that kind of attitude. So, like, I've just got a different stance on racism to a lot of people.
Well, I mean, to give you an idea, so when I first came to Moscow, I think my first 2 hours off the plane, I actually met with someone who was in Moscow, who happened to be in Moscow, who I know, and they gave me a quick tour. And then just walking around, just looking at the buildings for the first time. 2 hours in Moscow, yeah? Like, this is not a long time, but I'm trying to help you understand how much happened, how regularly it happened. First 2 hours, walking the street, blah, 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 whistling, whatever, not paying attention. This guy's following us, about 60-year-old. I'm like, okay, it's weird. Then I stopped, and just to see if he had stopped, he stopped too. I was like, okay, so he's clearly like following us, like, what going here? And then I keep walking, and he's like, oh, he starts talking about stuff in Russian. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what he's doing. But he's pointing at buildings. So I was like, okay, he must be talking about the buildings, right? So I hit on my friend. I'm like, yo, like, what was that? He's like, oh, you started talking about the buildings and like the history. I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then he said, it's so nice to see a civilized black man.
Woo!
Yeah. My first 2 hours. Do you understand? Like,
oh yeah.
A month of comments like that. You know, like, and I understand that sometimes it comes from ignorance. I understand that that guy actually meant it as a compliment, but at the same time, that is seeing me as lesser.
Yeah. Oh, please don't feel like I'm trying to underplay your experiences of racism in Russia.
But it's all,
He's not. But like, I'm just kind of making a point of like, outside of what you're speaking about, just broader points about racism. So yeah, I don't mean to diminish like your experience over there. I can imagine like any place you go when you're by yourself is it's just hard work.
Yeah,
so a lot of black people don't like traveling by themselves to places
like,
because you don't know what the landscape is going to be.
It's like I've always had a different, how can I say, a different perception on racism myself as well.
Yeah.
So growing up, when I was, I grew up in Nigeria, for example. I was born here, went back to Nigeria when I was 6 months old. Yeah. Came back here when I was 8. Yeah. When I was, 7.5. Right. When we came back, my parents. There's this thing back then. I don't know if you've watched this show. It's called Farming. It's a film.
Yeah.
Right. So back in the 80s, when Nigerian parents came over from Africa, obviously they needed to study to educate themselves to get jobs. Right. So at that time, if they had children, they put them in paid foster care. Yeah. Okay. So they would pay people to look after them. So when my parents came over, they wanted to finish certain things to get their jobs and get our house. Yeah. So they put me. I was in a paid foster care for 2 years in Sudbury, Suffolk. Yeah. Yeah. So. And Sudbury, Suffolk was a white family, completely white town. There was no black people in this town whatsoever. This is the 80s, yeah? So
it's like near Ipswich, right, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like, past Ipswich, yeah? So think about this. I've come from a country where everyone's black. I'm 8 years old. Everyone around me is black. And now I'm just literally being put into a place, not even London, where I see my parents, for example, they're black, and I see other people around me, they're black. I've been put in a place where everyone's white, yeah? Now, obviously, as a child, when you go to certain places as an only black person, it wasn't racism I faced. It was ignorance, and it was seeing something they hadn't seen before. Yeah. So I had a lot of fascination. Yeah. I had a lot of fascination at the beginning. Yeah. And after the fascination stage, yeah. Obviously, I was there for a while. After the fascination stage, it just became normal. That's Tom. I'm you. You know what I mean? That's it. We're now the same, yeah? But the only beginning part of it was where, they could call me Michael Jordan or whatever, blah, 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 blah. You might look at it like that. But...
Look at his ass!
Exactly, all of that. And for me, it was a culture shock. Like, there's so many things white people do that us black people just don't. Yeah. Yeah, there's so many differences, yeah? And...
I'm seasoned chicken.
bath once a week.
Oh,
Bro, they try to make me bath once a week, every Sunday.
Okay,
Are you crazy?
Yeah.
Like, coming from Africa, we used to bath every day, maybe twice a day, and you want me to now bath once every Sunday.
It wasn't even a thing to bath every day, because remember, like, a few years ago, you had, like, public baths. So before the public baths, you literally had families would, like, just kind of wash in the sink, and you might have, like, a big basin by the fire. And then you had the public baths that you went to every weekend to wash.
Okay.
But like during the week, you would just like wash with your flannel in the sink, and that's how they kind of like bathing and that daily is not like a custom beer that's like a long lived. You know what I'm saying?
So with that experience, it made me look at racism and look at certain things differently. So that's nothing to do with what Russia's like, because the way you're describing that is. It's a bit different because, as you said, this is the 80s. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have places of, we didn't have educational stuff and people speaking about the black experience and all these things for over and over and over, which, as in Russia, they do, as you said, they've got the internet, they're well educated, etc., etc., and they've chosen to be ignorant. So there's a bit of a difference.
No, you know what? I'm gonna say you keep looking at me.
You keep looking at me. I'll say one thing. In terms of like the minorities I spoke to, so that's the Russians that look Chinese, for example. Right, so they have a darker tone, or more Chinese, features. Or the black people I spoke to there, all of them were like, it's super racist. Like, it wasn't like a one had this view, one had that view. And the thing is, the reason why I can understand that view is because I understand the looks, I get it, I see one black person a day, they see a black person who's, like looking like, not I'm trying to say I look fresh, but I look European dressed, right? Compared to some of the maybe the Africans they had there, or like more fresh kind of people who are just immigrants trying to start out. So they can understand the difference.
Yeah.
It's like when Floyd Mayweather was there the other day.
So there's no rich black person in Russia that you know.
I mean,
come on, we go around everywhere.
But like one,
It's got the most millionaires and there's not
There is
one
a
black.
Nigerian
I don't
there.
know. I don't know.
There is a
Come on.
Nigerian there
Look,
making money.
Someone
somewhere.
must tell me there must be one rich
Yes,
Nigerian in
the
Russia.
Nigerian in Moscow, please holler at us and give us your.
I know you're defrauding Yannick somehow. Come on.
Nah, but to be fair, like it was. So I understand the looks. I get it. I'm not like looking obsessively, whatever. But like the looks of this is someone new. Fine, I get it. I understand the small stupid comments. Fine, I get it. But when it's like I can't look at this black person, how can I tell my kids that a black person works here? Like that was one of the comments. I hate Latin men. There was enough comments like that within a month to be like, wow, this is racist. To the point where every 3-4 days, something super racist would happen.
Okay, yeah. Certain times you can feel the energy anyways, like you can't even explain it, but you just feel the energy. When someone can say something, it's not even like racist in tone, but it's like you just feel what they, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
But yeah, I was getting love there too, obviously, like.
Russian women, how do they feel about us? Usually, a lot of the countries, the men hate us.
The men hate us,
but
but
that's the thing. I suppose it's the curiosity.
Isn't that like? Wasn't that like
That's
the whole
the
main?
curiosity face.
Isn't like the whole main reason of racism? Like in the first place.
Yeah.
like
basically, they just see big black dicks in their dreams. They're like, what happened to traumatized by the stigma?
like that's America. That's you know what I mean. That's why they say American racism really stems from.
Well, I don't know about that. But I mean, one thing I will say on a positive is St. Petersburg is like one of the most beautiful cities I've ever seen in my life. Like it's ridiculously pretty, like unimaginable.
Okay, so
It's like Paris, London. It's like the architecture is better or comparable.
Okay, better than Moscow.
For sure, by miles.
So
by
just
miles.
the people. You took take people like it's a beautiful place.
Well, St. Petersburg, the people are actually a bit more solid.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, I won't lie. It's like it's more surprising, but Moscow is the most racist place for sure, by far. Like you can feel it heavily.
Wow. Okay.
But St. Petersburg, Russians told me, which I actually I'm not sure about, but Russians told me they get more tourists there, so they're more equipped for it.
Right.
So I went to a hip hop club there.
Okay.
I went to a bar that was playing like underground hip hop, like good music, And I was like, shit, how do they even know this? I'll tell you one thing though. This was actually a joke. So I went to a hip hop club in St. Petersburg, and I wanted to see what he was saying. And I knew one person there, a Brazilian guy, but that was just through communication and hookups with hair and stuff.
Oh right. Okay.
And he was going there. So I went to the club just by myself because it was close to my hotel, and I was like, let me just see what it's saying. So I went to the front of the club and I was like, hey, like, what's the music like, blah, blah, blah. He's like, it's good. You come in, please come in. Please. I was like, okay, cool. And he's like, how much is it? He's like, it's this, and it was like the equivalent of like £2-3 for us, because it was low. Yeah. And he's like, I was like, sorry, I don't have cash. He's like, don't worry. And he rushed someone out from the bar with a car machine. He's like, come, please. And he started rushing, and I was like, yo, this is mad. They're treating me like a celebrity. Yeah. So I came back and he was like, yo, you ain't got to queue up. Yo, come to the front. He's like,
who do they think you are?
That's what I'm saying, fam. They were treating me mad. And I came into the club. Everyone was looking at me like, all that kind of shit, but on a positive vibe because like, oh my god, there's a black guy in a hip hop club. Wow, this is crazy.
Oh my god, it is Meek Mill.
And and then the promoter of the club, he might have been the owner too. He was like, hey, how you doing? Like, you good? Yeah. It's like, yeah. I just want you to know, drinks are on me tonight. Yeah. And I was like, this is crazy.
Was there any other black people in the club though?
No.
Did they ask you to take the stage?
Yeah.
Go for one.
No, but it was funny. It was funny. It was like it was almost like it didn't matter who I was. I was just
a black guy. Yeah, and it was a hip hop club, and they respected that.
I've had that a lot when I've traveled.
Especially
when you travel on your own. It's like, oh my god, you literally, like you say, they kind of see your dress code. It's not like the blacks in their country.
Yes.
They're like, oh my god, he's from America or London. Are you a rapper? Are you a super? Like they have this kind of stigma that you must be something. Have you been to Berlin?
He lived in Berlin for 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah, I was back and forth.
So how did you find Berlin?
How did you find Berlin?
So basically, I never went to Berlin, right? But I spent a lot of
I went
time
to
in
the carnival.
I spent a lot of time in Munich. I had a girlfriend in Munich. Stuttgart as well. There used to be like a lot of hip hop festivals in Stuttgart. So back in the days, we used to go to the festivals there.
Oh
Spend
yeah, I
time
think
out
it
there.
still is. Yeah.
And I always kind of felt like Berlin would be the racist hub of Germany.
Oh,
But everyone kept
no.
on saying, no, go there, that's where hip hop is, that's where people, you will like Berlin, there's more of a scene there. But like, yeah, historically, I always thought it would be
You
like a
got
more...
you got something to say.
I went to Berlin Carnival. That was the only time I went to Berlin. Right.
You see racism nowhere. Like,
I know. I know.
I
I
wouldn't
see.
even
No,
ask
I
you.
know. I see racism nowhere. But if you see, I've got a whole video of my Berlin trip. Yeah, and I was looking for the black people in the Berlin Carnival.
Yeah.
Where were they?
Interesting.
Then I found them all in one spot in the
Yeah.
corner. Like the whole carnival goes on, yeah, and all the black people are just literally congregated in one tiny little corner. So for me, and my whole experience of Berlin wasn't the most like it's the most friendly, non-racist place ever. It was quite like I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Berlin is known, like universally known as being a rude place.
Yeah.
Yes,
Right?
they were rude.
So, and I like for me going to Berlin and being there for long periods, I really struggled with it because I was like, I'm not used to this, you know, like people like, you know, you hold open the door, they don't give a shit, you know, people barge past you. That's just how, that's actually the culture.
Oh,
So
right,
then there's
okay.
a kind of line of, okay, is this because I'm black or is it just because they're
Yeah.
from Berlin?
Yeah.
And that was really difficult for me to understand.
So
Now,
which one was it?
it was 80-20
So
or 90-10. 80% rude, yeah,
And
80 to
then 10
90% rude,
black. Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
The interesting thing in Berlin is, so the young people in Berlin are by far like some of the most progressive people in like any city I've been to, by far.
And that's progressive in terms of
In terms of like, you know,
feminism,
equality, in terms of, yeah,
racial,
all of that, all of that.
Yeah.
Like by far, like they're far ahead of London people. The older people are the people who, you know, sort of will go down in 89, you know, were used to a regime essentially, but then now it's like, okay, like we're open, we're for different people, and they're struggling with that, you know, seeing a transsexual person walk down the street or seeing, you know, a woman dressed how she wants to. Like they're not used to that, right? So it's the old people that you really struggle with.
Right.
Hamburg is probably the most like multicultural place. So I think if you went to Hamburg, you'll see like loads of black people.
Okay.
compared.
I
Okay. I didn't know that.
spent years in
Oh, you went to Hamburg.
Yeah, St. Paul's.
St. Pauli.
Yeah, there you go.
Mhm.
No, what do I remember about sex workers? That's what I can't remember about that area, but I don't remember seeing many black people there. Yeah, I think the most I kind of came across in Germany would have been Munich, and it's mainly Americans from like army bases and stuff like that. But
Yeah, I mean, in Hamburg, it's in different sections. So similar to like, you know, you could be around all of London. Well, London's a bit different because it's clearly more multicultural. But you could be in all of London and be like, oh, there's not that many black people in some places.
yeah,
But then you go to, you know, Hackney, Harsden, and it's a totally different story.
yeah.
So it's kind of like that. But in terms of the young people, like they are like so progressive in that sense. I mean, Toronto is also a place that's like super multicultural too. Yeah,
You're planning on what, moving there, maybe?
maybe.
I
yeah.
said the same thing, cousin Mark. I had this conversation with you about 4 years ago. He agreed I was coming and he went silent on me. But yeah, I'll be playing the same for a little while. But I think Toronto's the most beautiful place I've been to. The only place I can really see myself living are places I've travelled to.
Yeah, same. I mean, Toronto's not the kind of place I'd go on holiday. Like, have you been?
No, never been.
Yeah, it's not the kind of place I'd go on holiday and be like, oh, this is sick.
Okay.
But it's the kind of place where I'd be like, this is great to live. You know, like it's like it's got everything you need.
Yeah, it
in
feels
that
like
sense.
clean America.
Yeah, you're talking about
Basically.
house prices. The house prices were decent. Decent.
All of that.
Cost
all
of
of
living
that.
is good.
And you're English there as well, so you know.
Yeah. Only thing I didn't like was like the kind of, you have residential areas and then like the shopping districts wherever you got like, you need to drive there. You can't just like walk out your house to the corner store. And I like that. I like you know what I mean?
I think that's like the difference with LA and New York, for example.
Right.
You know, New York, you don't need a car.
Right.
LA, where you going? You know. So yeah, and being from London, you're kind of used to that. if you don't want a car, you can just literally walk somewhere.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
certain parts of everywhere else, the big countries, you need a car to go anywhere. Like,
Yeah.
America, you learn to drive from 15, 14.
I wouldn't mind if it's like the major stores are far away, so like a little corner shop there. You guess it like. Yeah.
Oh, right,
So it's-
okay.
Where there's no
It's that
like,
bad.
yeah, there was none of that. It's like you're driving.
So, for something like, as we're talking about America, what have you, someone go on their phone right now and Google Florida.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, yeah, oh yeah. I mean this. I don't know if people are aware of this. You ever
Yeah.
done this? You ever
What?
Google Florida?
And then a date.
Just
No.
Florida. Just Florida. Yeah, Florida a date. Florida your birthday. As many Florida games you can play.
Apparently he says, so I've got this thing, I was like, we need to lighten up the mood sometimes in our podcast. Sometimes we talk about so deep stuff. And T goes, you know what? Just Google Florida.
Florida wants to make healthcare for trans kids a felony.
See, I told you.
Florida never lets you down. Florida is like a whole country, or like a whole state of barking. It's like a big barking with the sun.
And that's just like, last 24.
Yesterday's Florida thing was a woman. Remember the kid who said the kid he dropped off of
The fun fair ride.
Yeah, and the woman claimed the kid was hers and gave like an interview on TV.
Oh no, I
And
didn't
full
know that.
interview on TV, like, I didn't want to get on there, and then they told me that he fell down,
And it wasn't her
and
son.
it wasn't her son. It wasn't her son. The real parents came out like, oh, this is woman.
That is mad.
And that woman was actually a stripper. Okay. That woman was actually a stripper, and I think she got sacked from her job through the thing. So,
But mental health is real though. So it's not
yeah.
even funny. It's a real thing.
Nah, Florida, yeah, it's a different kind of vibe.
But why is that true?
I don't.
What is
know.
like
What-
in the landscape of America?
Yeah,
Well, we
what
know
makes-
Florida literally is like the bottom. Yeah. So if you
Yeah.
look at America, Florida's the bottom. Why is that?
What makes Florida
Yeah.
Florida? Honestly, I don't know. I don't know what it is. It's the air there, or whether are people crazy when they first were there, or is it like something that happens over an amount of time you're there? Is it in the air there? I don't know.
And Florida's a state, right? Or is
Uh,
Florida just a town? Because Miami's in Florida, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Florida's got the state.
yeah.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And Epstein's base was in Florida, wasn't it?
Was Epstein based in Florida?
I'm sure it was. I'm
Oh,
sure
that
it was
is-
that. See? I'm
That
sure it
is
was.
smart move, Epstein. No one will believe him.
I'm gonna Google people from Florida. Just to
They
see
call
what
that black
comes
comes up first. Some wild, yeah. That's.
So yeah. Oh, another thing I heard recently. What as a working person that didn't want to go to work recently, not go to work, but you want to work more from home.
Yeah.
We have started the 4-day retrial, by the way.
Oh,
And the whole country, I believe it's about 60 companies in the UK, from Monday till December, have started a 4-day retrial. So
Okay.
we're actually trying going to office for just 4 days. What's your perceptions on that?
Okay. Okay. I mean, given that like kind of I've been eased into it by the fact that COVID happened and people was getting to office like once a week anyway.
Some.
Yeah, I guess it kind of is a natural
Some.
progression. But you're gonna experiment with it now.
Is it?
I
You
mean,
know about Scandinavia.
Do you
Is
get
it
paid
a
the same?
Scandinavia thing? Yeah, that's the whole point. You get paid exactly the same.
more so. So I mean, in Scandinavia, they're trying that at more places. It's
Okay.
not like a permanent thing in more
Right.
companies.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that the interesting thing is, when I speak to some older people, they're like, "Oh, but that's not like how it was back in my day." And it's like, okay, but don't you work for your kids to live a better life than you?
Yeah.
Isn't this a good thing that people have a more life balance? Like, it's interesting because some people have resistance to people having it better to them.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, back in my day, I had to work hard. Well, okay, we do too, but in a short period, isn't that good for us? Like, like, why are you mad? Like, what are you talking about?
It is like that though. Yeah.
Yeah.
So as long as it's the same pay, but I think as someone who does go to work 5 days a week, for example, the number of hours I put in 5 days, yeah, for me to then break that down into 4 days, it would mean I'd work longer 4-day hours. And Is that a better work-life balance?
Yeah.
How is it running? Are you doing? Is there a change to the amount of hours you do in a day now?
No.
Like,
It's the same thing, but as in, obviously, okay, so it's for some people that work, some people clock in and they clock out, right? They work based on, it's 9 till 5, I'm out of here, yeah? And some people work based on their workload, yeah? And, you want to clear your workload, you've got your to-do list, you want to clear your workload. And my workload, for example, is enough in my 9 to 5, yeah? From Monday to Friday.
If you're managing your workload, isn't it a case of like, you could pretty much choose if you've done 3 days, 4 days, or 5 days anyway?
No, but what I'm saying is my workload is enough for the 5 days.
Okay,
So then now, if I then bring it down to 4 days, it would mean that I won't be working 9 hours in one day. I would have to stretch that in each day, Monday to Thursday. Obviously, it will give me an extra day off, but those Monday to Thursdays, what's your stress levels going to be like?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I think that eventually some companies will shift. So if a 4-day is the normal, and it's like, okay, this workload is just way too much for me, companies will have to shift in terms of, okay, I will hire someone.
But that's companies then losing money, then hiring someone else to do a workload that you could have done in 5 days. So why am I now going to hire a new employee just because you want an extra day off?
Yeah, I mean, it's a step closer to a utopian paradise. That's where it's going. That's where utopia's going.
Yeah, cool. In the thing, but in the commercial world, in terms of companies like to make money, and that's what companies are there for. It's not financially viable.
I think there's some companies where, if it was a 4-day week for me, I wouldn't have, blinked. It would have been the same. It would have just been me working on my productivity and doing it within a certain period. And I appreciate that. That could mean I'm working 9 hours instead of 8 in some days. But that extra day, I'd happily take the L. But I appreciate that for some organizations, it's more difficult than that. But the only reason why we have this regime is essentially because it's like we're used to the 5-day week. If it is normal to now have a 4-day week, then they have to shift. The companies have to shift. You can't be. If 90% of companies have a 4-day week, you're gonna the 10% who don't, they're gonna lose business just because people don't want to work for them. So like companies will have to shift. The more it becomes a reality, the more it just
So that would create like a 3-day weekend then. So like Friday would officially be part of the weekend. Oh, that'd be a beautiful thing.
Then that would make the leisure and tourism kind of boost
exactly what I was thinking. So in terms of the economy, it means leisure and tourism and just generally people got to spend more money on entertaining themselves. Can't be a terrible thing for the economy now. True.
But okay. It's been another lovely show, guys.
What time is it? I know. I guess it's been waiting to leave for a minute. 4:45, right?
Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Black Russian. It's been a very entertaining show.
Yeah, man. Thank you very much. Especially myself, like I said, I always prefer to get the view of someone who's been there and seen it for themselves. It's very much
spoken about Russia for the last 5 weeks.
Yeah, you can get things on TV and YouTube, so it's good to get some first-hand experience, man.
You should go.
Shit come down.
You gave it that glowing reference.
Pleasure, always.
Cheers. Thank you very much.
Take care.
Crusty, your girl's cra. I haven't nearly messed up our show name.
Your
girl's crusty foot.
Slap some Vaseline on the ankles and tune in next week.
And find some Kiss of Kemet.
Kiss of Kemet are official sponsors. The best in natural skincare.
Cream her.
www.kissofkemet.com.